For those of you that have already had me, welcome back to class. For those of you who have not met me yet, my name is Mr. Krupa. I am the 8th grade physical science teacher, and you have me for class this year. What we're doing today is going over the Flinn safety contract. Um, in this class, because it is science, it is much more hands-on than some other classes. Because it is more hands-on, it also comes with other dangers, other concerns, um, other things you need to be worried about. Um, because of that, what we have here is the Flinn safety contract. This contract has some rules and guidelines that you are to follow. And there's also a place for you and your parents to sign. Without the signature, without me getting this back, I cannot let you participate in lab because I need to make sure, one, down here it has places for allergies, but that you understand the rules on what you're being held accountable for. Again, science is more hands-on. It is fun. I love science. It's great to be hands-on, but to be hands-on, you've got to be safe. And you've got to make sure that you limit the risk of injury or danger to yourself and others. So I'm going to be going through this safety contract today um, and going over each one of the points here so you have a better understanding of what each rule means. Rule number 1 says conduct yourself in a responsible manner at all times in the science room. Horseplay, practical jokes, and pranks will not be tolerated. There's going to be zero tolerance for practical jokes, pranks, anything of that nature. Again, this is a science room. You have to be safe. Practical jokes, pranks, horse playing around, all it's going to do is cause problems. And it could possibly cause injury. It could possibly cause you breaking equipment. And it just causes too many problems. We can't have that in here. There's too high of a risk for injury. There's expensive equipment. Rule number 2, follow all written and verbal instructions carefully. Ask your teacher questions if you do not understand the instructions. If you don't understand any of my instructions, either verbal or written, please ask me about them immediately or ask another instructor in the room. You can't continue with a project, you can't continue with an activity or an experiment if you don't understand what you're doing or what's being asked of you. If you do try to continue without fully understanding, you may end up wasting supplies. You may end up getting yourself hurt because you did something out of order, getting somebody else hurt, or you might just waste your time. If you do a whole entire experiment out of order or missing a step because you didn't understand something, all you do was waste the entire class period and then you have to go back and start it again. And it can be real frustrating when that happens. So please, anytime you have a question, feel free to come to me, no matter how small, no matter how large. Rule 3 says do not touch any of the equipment, supplies, animals, or other materials in the science room without permission from the teacher. One, we're not going to be using animals in this room, so you don't have to worry about that. But equipment, supplies, and materials, if I don't give you permission, do not touch it. I will have stuff set up around the room. I also teach a chemistry class, and they might have apparatuses set up or they may have equipment set up. You can't touch it. It might be fragile. Some of the stuff might be hot. There will be hot plates used in this class. You won't know. You can't tell the difference. Something might be sharp. It might zap you. Any of these things could happen. Please make sure if you want to touch something or you're curious about something, ask me first. Do not just go up and touch the equipment. It's a danger and it's also just respectful. I'm very big on respect in my class. I'm not going to be taking your property or asking to have anything from anybody else or yourself without asking permission first. Rule 4, perform only authorized and approved experiments. Do not conduct any experiments when the teacher is out of the room. Again, this is going to be zero tolerance. You don't know what you're doing yet. You're here to learn. Once you go to college and you understand more, once you're through high school or some trainings, you understand how things interact more. You might understand how things will react better. Until then, and especially in 8th grade, especially in most of high school, you don't fully understand it. So because you don't fully understand, it's a danger to you and others. You can't conduct any experiments without my permission. If you want to try something or you're curious about how something would react or how something would go if you change something, ask me. We might be able to do it, we might not be. But please ask me first. There's going to be a zero tolerance for this. And never conduct an experiment while I'm outside of the room. There will be never any lab or any type of experiments if I ever have to set foot outside the room. Rule number 5 and rule number 6, I'm going to read them together because they kind of go together. Rule 5 says never eat, drink, chew gum, or taste anything in the science room. Rule 6 says keep hands away from face, eyes, and mouth while using science materials or when working with either chemicals or animals. Wash your hands with soap and water before leaving the science room. If we're doing any type of experiment, any type of activity, you're zero tolerance, no food, no drink, no gum, no nothing. The reason being is if you, whatever you touch, whatever you mess with, it gets on your hands. And the second that you eat something, it's on the food, it goes from the hands to the food to your mouth. Same thing with drinking, same thing with chewing gum, because many people, you got to take the gum out of the packet, or some people like to play with it, which I don't deal with. But anytime with that, you put that chemical or whatever substance was on your fingers, and you've now ingested it. The same goes with keeping your hands away from your eyes, face. Um, the same way that when you're ingesting something, chemicals can get inside your body. When you touch your eyes or your mouth, you're getting the chemicals inside your body again via mucous membranes. There's many chemicals and many substances that they won't do anything if they're on your hands. We simply wash our hands and we're fine. There's not going to be any problem with it. But many chemicals, once they're inside your body, they can make you sick. They could possibly give you a slight poisoning. There's hazards to chemicals, and we're going to be going over hazards for chemicals, but you don't want that inside your body. Washing your hands, you're perfectly good. Stuff goes right down the drain, no problem. But once you ingest things or get it inside of you, it can cause a lot of problems. And then anytime after you leave my class, make sure you wash your hands so you don't touch anything else or touch anybody else. Or now you go to lunch or to the bathroom, you want to make sure everything is off your hands and you're clean and sanitary. Rule number 8, real simple. Keep your work area in the science room neat and clean. Bring only your lab instructions, worksheets, and writing instruments to the work area. Keep everything nice, neat, and tidy in your area. You don't want to clutter it. Whenever you start cluttering your lab space or your experiment space, all you're doing is inviting room for accidents, because now you could bump something, people sit with their elbows out. You may have too much together, grab the wrong thing. So just keep your work area clean. Rule number 9, clean all work areas and equipment at the end of the experiment. Return all equipment clean and in working order to the proper storage area. This is again just a sign of respect. You would like it if I used something of yours to make sure I had it clean and got it back to you in the same way that I had it. Same way, if you're using equipment in here, be respectful, clean the equipment well, put it on the drying racks, put it in the cabinets, put it where it's supposed to be, but make sure you get it either better or as good as you got it. And plus, it allows materials to last longer. If you let some things sit, if you don't clean it, if you don't maintain it, they wear out fast, they go bad fast, and then we have to buy them more often. Or we might not even have them for your class because they wore out or broke. Rule number 10, follow your teacher's instructions to dispose of any waste materials generated in an experiment. There will be some times where you need to have certain materials thrown away in a very specific way. Not everything can go in the trash. Sometimes they're going to have to be put in special containers. Sometimes they'll have to be disposed of in a certain way. Some things can go in the trash, and I will tell you if they can go in the trash. Other things may have to go in an area called a lab hood where I can properly dispose of the chemicals. So make sure, again, this goes back to listening to instructions, make sure that you dispose everything in the proper spot. Rule number 11, report any accident, fire, spill, breakage, etc., injury, cut, burn, etc., or hazardous condition, broken equipment, etc., to the teacher immediately. This is for your safety and the safety of others. If you're hurt, I need to know immediately. I need to know how you got hurt so that we can properly treat it. I don't care if it's a paper cut. You let me know so that we can get a Band-Aid on it. If we need to send you to the nurse, that way, one, you're not bleeding everywhere. But two, I know, did you cut yourself on a piece of glassware that had a chemical that we need to be aware of? Did you burn yourself? Are you having some type of allergic reaction that you weren't aware of? We need to know these things so that we can properly help you. And if there's any time equipment when you see it, it's broken or it looks suspicious to you, Let me know. I'm not going to be mad if you pick up a piece of equipment and it's cracked and you say, Mr. Krupa, the glassware is cracked or the balance is broken. I don't want you to use something that's broken. I want you to be safe and I want you to have a full experience. But if you use equipment that's damaged or it might look really weird to you, you increase your risk for injury. Glassware that has a chip or crack in it, if you heat it, it could crack and spill whatever chemical it's holding onto you. We don't want that to happen. So make sure, again, report any injury, no matter how big, how small, immediately to me. Any burn, immediately to me. Any type of accident in the lab, spills, breakage, any equipment that's broke, immediately, so that we can get it cleaned up and we can keep you safe, others safe, and we can continue having a good time in lab or experiments or any type of activities. Number 12, this is a big one. Consider all chemicals used in the science room to be dangerous. Do not touch or smell. Hold on 1 second, please.
Please come see Mrs. Criswell. Christy Weaver, come see Mrs. Criswell.
I apologize for the announcement. Number 12, consider all chemicals used in a science room to be dangerous. Do not touch or smell any chemicals unless specifically instructed to do so. It's a science room and you don't know what the things are. You have to be sure before you eat something. You don't know if you're eating a poison, a toxin, something you're going to have an allergic reaction to. Never eat, taste, drink, smell anything without my permission. When you in here, it's not going to be a big deal, but when you go to high school chemistry, you get to college chemistry, certain chemicals, if you try to smell it, it's going to sear the inside of your nostrils down your throat, and it's going to burn. You're going to be miserable. You're going to be coughing and hacking. Other things, if you accidentally ingest it, it's going to possibly send you to the hospital. You're going to feel really bad. You're going to be really sick. So you never want to assume something is safe. Always assume the worst. Now I'm going to do one of these for you for a demonstration. Now we're going to come back to this, but I am going to be putting on these goggles. This is something, anytime we have chemicals, we need to have goggles on. And these are the types of goggles when we have dangerous chemicals you're going to be using in class. They keep everything safe. Nothing can splash up and around. They keep your eyes safe, okay? So this is what I mean by assuming everything is dangerous. What we have here are two different chemicals, and I'm going to hold them up for you. Can you tell the difference of them? One of these is really safe. One of these is really dangerous. But you can't tell right now. You have to assume that they're both the super dangerous one because you can't tell. This is how you've got to treat every chemical, because if you treat everything that it's safe, you could end up hurt. For example, what it turns out is that this test tube is the safe one. This is just water. What we have here is a sponge. We got a sponge with some water in it. Whenever you add the water to the sponge, nothing happens. It's just water on a sponge. No problems there. I'm going to dump out the excess water here. But this one here is called sulfuric acid. If you assume that this chemical is safe, as you can see, it's melting this sponge away. Slowly, it's eating it away. You can see the smoke coming off. You can see the hole being eaten through it there. That chemical, sulfuric acid, just ate through the sponge. Now imagine if you would have assumed that was safe. All chemicals need to be assumed are dangerous until you know otherwise. Now, in this safety contract, you don't need to worry about number 13. We have no animals in here. We don't need to worry about 14 that much because we're not going to be using microscopes that often. But if we do use them, carry them with both hands and just hold them upright. You want to be respectful of the equipment. They're very expensive. They're very fragile. So have two hands on them. And before you use them, I will demonstrate for you. Number 15, again, we don't have going to have any preserved specimens in here to dissect, sorry, but that's not in this class. The only thing with number 15 is part D, report any cut or scratch from sharp instruments to me immediately. Again, that goes back to reporting any injuries to me. Number 16, never open storage cabinets or enter the prep storage room without my permission. There are cabinets, you can see them in the camera here. You can see cabinets down below. Make sure that you always stay out of them until I say otherwise. The other part of this, you will see if you're in my class, and I will also be having another video of this, but there's a room right here called my chemical room and prep room. I will show that to you. You are never to enter them no matter what. It's zero tolerance. You don't go in there. There's too many things in there that could harm somebody. You don't go in there ever. Even if you think something is wrong with me, you call for another teacher, Mr. Rosenberger, Mrs. Klein, Mr. Blair, Mrs. Criswell, the nurse, somebody else. You go get them. Don't go in there yourself. It's too dangerous. Period. Zero tolerance. Number 17, do not remove chemicals, equipment, supplies, or animals from the science room without my permission. Again, too many things are dangerous, too many things are expensive. Nothing leaves my room without my permission. If you want to take something in the hall, or I will let you know if we're going to. If you want to if we're messing with tape measures or rulers, anything like that, before you take them out of my room, you ask my permission. All equipment you must ask before taking them out of this room. Number 18, handle all glassware with care. Never pick up hot or broken glassware with your bare hands. If glass is broken, let me know. We'll just sweep it up with a broom. If glassware is hot, let it cool. Just be respectful with the glassware. This is an example of glassware. You don't want to be goofing off with it. You don't want to be holding it. You don't want to be throwing it around, sliding it across the tables. Treat this like fine china, and then you'll be a lot better off. Number 19, use extreme caution when using matches, a burner, or hot plate. Only light burners when instructed, and do not put anything into a flame unless specifically instructed to do so. Do not leave a lit burner unattended. We will not be using Bunsen burners in here for safety reasons, but you may be using hot plates. When using a hot plate, always be very cautious approaching them. They could be really hot from a previous class period and you would not know it. You can feel the heat coming off them. Do not just assume they're cool, reach up and grab a hold of them. Some of them have little lights indicating when they're on, so you'll know if they're hot, or if they're off, you might need to just ask me. I would recommend ask me first. I will let you know if they were used, they might be hot. Or you can always feel the heat that's being radiated off of them. But be very cautious with hot plates. Dress properly. When long hair must be tied back, no dangling jewelry, no loose or baggy clothing, and wear aprons when instructed. With lab this year, many things are still the same. Some things may be a little different though. One of those things is going to be with gloves, and we'll get into that. With proper dress, always make sure you have on your goggles. No, there's no compromise here. Goggles, goggles, goggles. If we have chemicals, goggles on. If we're doing other things and we're just maybe using rulers, you might not need them, or we will be using safety glasses. Safety glasses are not as effective for many chemicals. So for chemicals, goggles. Other experiments, safety glasses, or we may not have anything on depending on the activity we're doing. Loose or baggy clothing. Make sure no real baggy sweatshirts, t-shirts, clothing that's going to be dangling down. It can catch things. If you have long hair, please have it tied back. If you have a hairband on your arm, that's fine. Make sure long hair is tied back. If not, I always have extra hairbands that you can have. Once you need it, you can have it, take it with you. The other part with dress, no dangly jewelry, necklaces, stuff like that. Earrings are fine. Even during lab, I take off my wedding ring so that I don't smack it off of glassware. So if you have rings, I recommend taking those off. One, if they hit glassware so they don't break the glassware, but two, so if something would happen, burn, allergic reaction, they're not stuck on your hand and cutting off circulation. Just a few little tidbits with safety that is not on here with dress. One, fake nails. Be aware if you're ever near fire with fake nails, they are more flammable than regular nails, so be aware of that. The types of materials that you wear in lab. I cannot stop you from wearing a material like this, and I will wear these at times, but I take a risk with it. This is that stretchy athletic material type shirt. When you wear these, uh, if they would ever catch fire, please be aware these do not burn away like cotton does. They will melt, and they melt to your skin a little bit. So be aware with that. You must have closed-toed shoes. Crocs do not count as closed-toed shoes. Also have proper shoes. Heels are not the best to be using during lab time. Tennis shoes, boots, stuff that totally encompasses and covers your feet are the best things for safety, so nothing can drip on them, and it keeps them somewhat safe if something would fall on them. Also, contact lenses. Be aware that contact lenses are allowed. You are allowed to have contact lenses, but they do add extra risk. Where if, for whatever reason, and at any time in your life, you get a chemical in your eye, you must remove the contact lens before you can start washing out your eye, because the chemicals get absorbed into your contacts and then they continue to react. According to standards and according to research, before with really serious chemicals, sometimes you only have about 10 seconds before permanent damage is done. So you be aware with contacts, we must remove contacts before, if an emergency would occur, before we could continue to irrigate. We got to get those out. We can irrigate, but we have to get the contacts out. The other thing is this with equipment this year, you're going to have gloves. Whenever you come into the classroom or we're going to use equipment, any equipment, you're going to have to put gloves on. So before we use the equipment, you're going to first wash your hands. We're going to wash our hands, make sure those are clean. Then you will get a pair of gloves and put those on. And I have different sizes of gloves. After you get the gloves on, you're good to touch equipment at this point. These are nitrile. These are not latex based. So anybody with a latex allergy is good. But after you have those on, you cannot touch your face now. Because we're still touching things. You can't touch your face, even with the gloves on. You can't touch anywhere with your face. So that's going to be a big deal. If for some reason you would go around, touch anything, or have to leave the classroom to use the restroom, you must remove the gloves, okay? So if you're using equipment, gloves on. Wash hands before, gloves on. When you go to take them off, grab the glove by about the palm, reverse it out, pull it in a ball, reach underneath the other glove, reverse it out. Now everything's contained and they're going to be thrown away. Then, after we're done with the gloves, you must wash your hands again. So we're going to be very considerate with sanitation this year. And that's how it's going to work with the gloves. That's any time we're going to be using any type of equipment to help with safety. The other last thing here is learn where the safety equipment is located and how to use it. Know where the exits are located and what to do in case of an emergency or fire drill. If you're not going to be here this year, the fire drills won't apply to you as much or at all. But for those of you that will be here, I will be going over fire drill protocol with you in person. And I will also be going over safety equipment, and I will also be making a video of all the safety equipment and where it's at in the classroom. That is the safety contract. I look forward to having a good year with you. I look forward to having a fun year with you. Again, if you follow these rules that are in the safety contract and also rules that are going to be in my syllabus, this year will go smoothly. Hopefully we have a lot of fun together. We can do as many activities as possible for this year. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.